Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Jooby tutorial on how to use Maven with Jooby and vice versa. So Jooby, if you don't know, is a micro framework for Java that will allow you to create a web server in Java. So then users connect to your web server, and you can return a web page. You can return anything, strings of text, XML files, whatever you want to return. So it pretty much takes Java and turns into a simple web server without having to learn some massive framework like Spring or whatever. So yeah, so first we need to do some basics of Maven, and of course I'm assuming that you have a general idea of how to work with Java and how to code in Java. So first, Maven. Maven is a dependency manager that allows you to allow third-party dependencies to be included in your project much easier than just downloading the code and then like somehow putting it into your project in such a way that you can use it. Maven handles all of that and also auto updates your dependencies. It auto manages your dependencies and everything, and you can do a lot more stuff a lot easier with Maven. Gradle is also a really good one that's about comparable to Maven. However, in this project, we're going to be using Maven instead of regular Java. So with regular Java, you would typically just hit next on the regular Java in IntelliJ, and you create a new project. But in Maven, hit on Maven, not actually just click on Maven, don't actually hit on her. And we're given new projects, so name, we're going to name it Jooby tutorial testing or something like that, I don't know. And then group ID, so group ID is of course your organization ID, so you want to have like org dot whatever your organization is. It's just me, so I'm doing Slade. Artifact ID, this is the official name of your application that you're going to be making. So, I don't know, Jooby Backend tutorial. And these could be anything. You just have to remember them. They're like variable names. And version, of course, if you have if you're updating with versions with big projects, you want to keep your versions up to date. It autos to 1.0 snapshot. I'm just going to keep it when it's not that important. None of these names are that important, except for maybe group ID. It's just to get started with Maven. So you hit finish, and we'll give you a testing, or a already kind of built project. So here you got a very standard Java configuration. So you got source, you got main, you got test. If you want to do JUnit testing, so main, Java, and resources. Right now we're going to be focused on pom.xml. This is how you manage your dependencies and include them into a Maven project. So right now, with a Jooby, you can of course include the Maven project. So if you go on the Maven section, you of course include the this dependency right here. So Maven is in XML format, the pom.xml, of course. Gradle is in something else, but Maven is in XML. So we're gonna actually skip this because there's a lot of things we need to include with Jooby. So I'm gonna copy paste this in here. This is linked in the description. So what we have here is the properties of what our class is going to be, and then dependencies. So we of course got io.jooby with io.netty, some logging, some JUnit with Jupyter that they have installed, and then JUnit or Jooby test, and of course the comment square up. All those are vital to the way Jooby runs, and of course dependency management is of course needed. So of course you got dependencies, and of course it will give it the latest Jooby version, type pom, scope, and import. All of this can go right over your head. It's not that important as long as you have it in here. And sync it with Jooby, with Maven. What you want to do is you find this little box in the upper right hand corner for detects a change. You hit that, so load Maven changes. If you don't get it, you can go to Maven and just like hit all the refresh things. That honestly helps and works, and it will auto download. Fortunately for me, I have Jooby already downloaded on my system, so Maven will get whatever's on my local system. It will get that Jooby version right there. So we have our pom.xml set up. Now we want to go to Java. We want to go new. We go package, and we want to get our group ID package. So we go org.slade, or whatever your name is, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you probably shouldn't have any special characters in there, just letters and numbers. And then here we want to go Java class, main, and it'll give us our Java class.main. Now, to check that we have Jooby downloaded and installed on our computer, we want to go import io.jooby, and if we get the IntelliSense in IntelliJ, if it drops down to Jooby, that means we have it. And in Jooby, we want to import big J Jooby for our object. We also want to import io.jooby.mediatype. And that's all we really need to import for Jooby. Now, for just testing, we're going to make a main method, so public static void main string, get our arguments set up, string args. We want to quick print out good evening. And to run a class in IntelliJ, we want to right click it and say run main. And we'll build and run, and it's just say good evening. So we know that our file structure and everything with Java works as it should. If you have trouble with getting Java and SDK kind of set up for your project, make sure in the project structure, which can be accessed up here, or in file project structure, you have project SDK, you have it set to either 1.8 or something later. In Java, sometimes you have no SDK. If you have no SDKs down here, you want to look into the detected SDKs or add one yourself, download JDK, whatever. JDK goes with SDK because it's a development kit. And you want to make sure with project language level that you have it on level 8. We're going to be using lambdas for this, at least level 8. Now to get started with Jooby, what you want to do is you want to just start out, so not indented correctly, so Jooby, make a Jooby object and called app equals new Jooby. And we don't need any parameters for the constructor to pass through for Jooby. Next, we want to get the app imported, or the server settings options set up. So we want to do app.set server options, and this will give us new server options. And so we have new server options kind of set up inside setting the server options. So all we need to do is set port. And Jooby automatically sets port to 8080, so this would be the default port. However, we can do whatever we want. We can do 8000, or we can do, I don't know, like 7878, or I don't know, 6868. Whatever we want to do. We just can't do either port 80 because that's the default port for HTTP, or 443, which is the default port for HTTPS, so secure, our safer secure HTTP. We're just going to leave it at 8080. If you set a port that is invalid or that has already been taken, you will see an error down below. We can example that later. That says, hey, this port has already been taken. If you get that, just change your port number, and you should be good to go, or keep changing it until you're good to go. So first, we want to get a route going. So right now we can do app.get, and we want to get the pattern to be just a slash, just a /, and then we can do ctx. This is where our lambda function comes in. So ctx is an event handler, and it goes into a lambda function. Make sure you get a semicolon at the end of that, because this is technically a statement. And in here we can write code. So we can write whatever happens when the user goes to our IP address and to pretty much the index. This is called the index in web server language. So we can go return Jooby works, and then we can, after we do app.start, which will actually start our app and have it listen on that specific port that we specified up there, 8080, we can run it again. Build and test, and this all main debug, that is all fine, and it will give us this. So it will give us, hey, it's listening as a service, and it shows our route there, get /. So if we go to this URL, which is localhost, which is our local machine, port 8080, it will open up in a browser and say, hey, Jooby works. So it returned the string, and so we know that everything is now working. If I set this to set port 80 and try running it, not run in parallel, that's fine, stop and rerun. It'll give us an error saying, hey, main exception, our address is already in use, port 80, of course. That just means, whoops, We don't want to do that. We just change it to something else. So port 8080, usually any in the range between like 10 and 999, 9,999. So that should get it to work. So that is an entire Jooby app. Now, of course, there is a lot more to coding in Jooby than that. What we want to do typically is load in HTML. So if we go into resources, new HTML file, let's call this index.html. And this will give us IntelliJ will give us a template to write a HTML in. For simplicity's sake, I just copy pasted a pre-rendered or pre-made HTML document in here just because this is not an HTML tutorial. If you know HTML, that's good. This is where you put it. And it will give us a couple things that we will need later on to demonstrate. So right here, I just have a basic title. Index, it'll say index page, simple post. In fact, let's just code it and run it. So if we go app.get / we should get return Jooby works. I can also change this to anything, so like other page. And if we start it, our route will say get / other page. And if we go to this port, it will show nothing because this route, the / hasn't been set up right here. It's not available. So if we go to / other page, it will actually, it'll route to what we have defined in our route. Now, we'll make our index page actually useful. So app.route or app.get. Let's go basic route. CTX. Now we can return a file. So we do return new file. And this should not be imported yet, but we can import it by doing Alt-Enter, java.io, new file, and we want to go source, in a string, source / main / resources / index.html. So to the path to the HTML document from the main folder that this is being run in. So of course, source to main to resources to index.html. Remember, add a semicolon right there. And if we run this again, it should show us our two routes at the bottom, get and other page. So if we go to get again, we should get this simple HTML document that I have made prematurely. So yeah, there we go. So this is how you can get to get and other page. So if we go to other page again, other page, it should show us the other page again. So that's the basics of routing. Now that is how you do get methods. Now there's also another method called post. The difference between get and post is get is if you want to typically get something from the server without actually posting anything to the server or putting anything to the server. And post is typically if you want to send something to the server. So let's say like a file or like some information. So like if you sign up for a social media site and you register, you put in your email, you put in your username, put in your password maybe twice, and your birthday, and you hit submit, that is a post telling the server to sign this person up for the social media service. And then when that's signed up, you get an HTML page back that says, congratulations, you've signed up, and it will register you as a person. So to do post, we do a pattern. So let's actually do this as post. So right now, what we want to do is we want to connect this post to this form post. So in HTML, to connect it to Jooby post, you need to define the method as a post method, and action as the route that you have it in. So the action right now, I have it in as a /post. Right here in the app.post, the pattern is a /post. So every time this submit button will be pressed, it will go to this route. Make sure you add the semicolon in for the lambda function. So what we can do is we can actually get the form data from it. So let's get string form post equals, or from post, post, because this is from the post. So we get ctx.form, and we want to get the name of the input that is here. So right now we just have a simple text input that is right here. We're just concerned about this post right here. So in the name text box, so we want to get form text box. And we want to get dot value, because otherwise we'll just get the hash map, a hash map set object. Then we can also print it out. Now, if you print out anything in Jooby, it will just print out in the console. It won't print out in the browser, which is nice for some things. If you want to print stuff out into the browser, you would do it through JavaScript with console.log. But we can also return from post to make sure we got our thing goes through, and we can restart it. So if we go to port 80 again, simple post, let's say I have the high ground, and we submit the query, we should get returned I have the high ground, and of course it will say that, hey, this thing connected here, and it should print out in the console I have the high ground. So we know that this form post in this form went through. So that's pretty cool. And that's typically the basics of Jooby. Now I want to show you how to a little bit more advanced, do a get file kind of thing. So you can actually upload files through post. The size is limited. However, you can set the limits to something greater inside the set port option. So if we get to app.post again, let's do post file, and we go ctx, just again do another lambda function. What we want to do is we're going to do file upload, and this is a Jooby object held inside Jooby class. So we do input upload equals ctx.file, and we want to get this file string name. So inside this form action, the file, so we want to do get file. So actually we want to get file or even post file. To change this to something more appropriate, to post file. So once this goes to post file on a post method, we need to nc type. We need to set this to multi-part / form data in order for Jooby to read it and be order to actually unpack it. Next, we want to do input type.file, name is file, and ID file, which should be fine because we just want to do the name file. So string file name. I'm going to get the file name, so input upload dot get file name. That's how we get the file name. Then we want to get define a path to save our file in. So if we do string path, we can do src. We'll just do it in this folder, src, and we do plus file name. And this should save our file name into the file that we set it as. So, and then we want to do file output stream inside java.io, input file writer equals new file output stream, and we want to do it to the path. So this will stream to a certain file inside our folder right there. So it's a lot easier to write to the file instead of just doing a blank file object. We want to, and for that we want to actually write to the file, so we do input file writer dot write input upload dot bytes. I'm going to do just the raw bytes of the file, nothing fancy, and then input file writer dot close, so it actually saves. Then we want to turn success uploading file. And there we go. As we save that, we can run it again. Let's just say we have this picture of Jeff Goldblum with Jeff Goldblum, and we want to go back. We want to make sure our server is running. Of course it is, and post file is running. We have this picture of Jeff Goldblum, and we upload it. So we can drag this to the browse, and it will give us that upload success uploading file. We should, inside this source, we should see this image again in the source file instead of into our resources where we uploaded it from. So that's how you save files. That's how you do all the stuff in Jooby. I hope you enjoyed it. This is obviously very basic. The full documentation is, of course, on the Jooby website, which can be very helpful and also sometimes very confusing. But this is just to get started with Jooby and to understand what it is capable of.